Today on Legally Us, Angelina Jolie's lawyers slam Brad Pitt for petulant behavior over winery lawsuit. Plus, Kim and Kroy are facing a lawsuit after defaulting on a home loan. And Kanye West faces a new lawsuit over these wild Donda Academy conditions. And Logan Paul's energy company is being investigated by the FDA. We've got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, and welcome to Legally Yes. I'm Christina. That's, of course, Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Neama, welcome back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, but it's good to be back.
So glad to be back, Christina. I missed you and I miss Legally Us. Can't wait to get started.
I know, and we got a lot to get to. Of course, Kim and Kroy, we've been talking about this story for weeks. This was surprising. They decided to, call off their divorce. But in the midst of all of this, they allegedly defaulted on a home loan. And the company apparently owe Landmark Community Bank a total of over $217,000 after taking out a home equity line of credit for their Georgia property. So the bank claimed that they failed to make monthly payments on the loan. They took out a $300,000 loan from the bank back in December of 2013. Were expected to make payments. They haven't. So in August of 2017, they extended the maturity date to the end of the year. They ultimately failed to meet their monthly dues, and the bank noted that they terminated the line of credit in May of 2023. She refused to accept a letter from the bank notifying them of the termination. So will the couple be forced to pay this back?
I think so. And Kim and Kroy, wow. I mean, really the gift that keeps on giving, at least to lawyers and Legally Us. Every week, it's just something else. And, now they're likely going into default because of this loan. They may even have to file bankruptcy. Usually when it comes to these types of loans, you'll have payments you have to make. And obviously, if you miss payments, you might go into foreclosure. Or in their case, it looks like there might have been a balloon payment that was due. I don't know if it was an acceleration clause because they missed payments. Sometimes if that happens, then the entire amount owed becomes payable. Or they had some sort of deal where they have to make payments over a series of months and then make a big payment at the end. But whatever it is, they owe a lot of money. And usually these types of loans are secured by the property. So if you don't pay, that's when the bank can foreclose on it.
Are you really surprised that they have not filed for bankruptcy yet?
I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, this couple, the body cam footage recently from their police encounters, they're calling the cops on one another on a regular basis. I think probably in the big scheme of things, the financial problems are the least of their issues. They're dealing with allegations of domestic violence, gambling, alcohol abuse, and obviously they have a lot of kids that they're dealing with as well. So custody issues. So they have a lot going on. But I think ultimately, you're right, Christine, it's probably just a matter of time that they're going to have to file BK.
Right. What did you make of that body cam footage? And do you think that was leaked? And they did call off the divorce, but how does this look to the public? How does this look to the court?
It's a terrible look, and it's not just the first instance or even the second or third. These are two who are calling the police on each other a lot. It seems like oftentimes maybe Kim is the one who's calling. Obviously, she's the woman. She's more likely to call in a situation like this. But yeah, the way they're treating one another, the allegations, the accusations that are thrown back and forth. We've seen a lot of toxic relationships on the show. We've covered a lot of them, both here and on reality TV. But I think this one may be the worst of them all. Even though they may have reconciled, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a matter of time before we're dealing with a separation issue again.
Right. Since they're in such what it seems like financial debt and, it's becoming like a dire situation, could they have called off the divorce for financial reasons? Potentially.
It could be that. It could be their kids. It could be, frankly, divorce and separation is expensive. Those lawyers, the good ones, they charge a hefty hourly rate. And, in a case like this where, you have the kids and these types of allegations, it's not going to be an uncontested divorce. It's not going to be a fast trial at all. These are the types of divorces that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So maybe, frankly, they just can't afford it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of really messy splits and divorces, let's talk about Kevin Costner and his estranged wife, Christine, because she may have to forfeit her $1.5 million divorce settlement since she challenged the pair's prenup. So in documents filed back at the end of June, Kevin's lawyer states if Christine in any manner challenges or assists in the challenge of the validity or enforceability of any provisions of this agreement, she shall lose any and all rights to receive any payment, property, or interest from Kevin pursuant to this agreement. So he has already paid his wife $1.5 million as she is owed under the terms of the agreement, which they both agreed back in 2004. She, in response to a request from Christine's side that Kevin pay for her attorney fees. So it seems like they did come to some sort of agreement that he is going to pay for the children's healthcare, activities, sports on the first of each month. He's going to give her almost $130,000 per month in child support, in addition to paying $200,000 and $100,000 in attorney's fees and forensic costs. So who kind of made out in this situation? Are you surprised? I mean, she was asking, I think, almost $250,000 a month. So this is quite lower than she wanted, still a hefty sum per month.
You know, Christina, I think Kevin is the winner here, both in terms of the prenup, the way it was drafted. You have to give credit to Kevin Costner's lawyers. They put this contest in, and sometimes you see it in wills or in prenups, and it says that if a party tries to contest the divorce, they're actually going to lose the benefit they would have had under the agreement. So not only did Kevin's lawyers wisely put this no contest provision in the prenup, the judge has held that it's enforceable. So now Christine's in a situation where she has to decide, do I litigate this and potentially lose everything, or do I accept the bargain that I agreed to when I entered into this agreement before we were married? So far, Kevin's ahead, and not just with respect to the support payments and so forth. Christine needs to vacate the house. That's another ruling that the judge made, and that's something that was also in that prenup agreement. So far, Kevin has scored a couple wins against his soon-to-be ex-wife.
So it seems like once a prenup is in place, you really, even though 10 plus years go by, you really can't contest it.
It's hard. So if you're going to contest it, whether you're Christine or any spouse, you need to say that, when I entered into this agreement, it was unconscionable. That means no reasonable person would have done this. Or, whatever rights I was giving up, they weren't waived knowingly and voluntarily. That's why it's important for spouses in a prenup agreement for both of them to be represented by independent lawyers. But if you have a lawyer, if you have sound mind and you enter into an agreement, if it turns out that years later it's a bad deal, most judges won't unwind it. So it's really an uphill battle, and I'm not surprised that Christine's losing that battle here.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I mean, she still get $130,000 a month, so I'm sure she's doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, because this drama does not seem, this is like a Hollywood movie. It really is. So lawyers for a company founded by Angelina Jolie filed court papers that mocked Brad Pitt for his claims to have built their French wine business, painting him as a Hollywood dilettante who, despite his claims, has at most, they said, visited the vineyards to admire the work of the French laborers who actually made the business. So attorneys for Novell, which is that company, a holding company that Angelina set up to carry her shares in Miraval, which she sold in 2021, lodged a cross complaint in the endless battle over their winery. The documents state Brad is an actor, not a winemaker. He deals in illusions, not dirt and grapes. During the years that he allegedly built the business, he filmed and appeared in dozens of movies, not to mention making countless promotional appearances, jet-setting around the world for movie premieres, attending Hollywood parties. While he no doubt visited the vineyards to admire the work, like we said, it was just to see the French laborers who actually made the business successful. So the complaint added that Brad looted the business, spending millions of dollars in profits on frivolous projects, include renovating a recording studio. They're saying that that Brad owes the business $350 million. He, of course, accused her of selling her share to the company, like kind of pulling the rug out from under him. So what is she trying to prove with these latest, while funny, kind of not ridiculous claims, but funny claims to make?
Christina, Hollywood movie is right. And people always ask me, is there potentially another Johnny Depp Amber Heard case? And I think this is the case, right? Two very high profile celebrities who do not like each other, and the accusations, I mean, you can't really make this stuff up. And sometimes you see these complaints and lawsuits and court filings that are meant for the court and they're done for legal reasons. But in a case like this, a lot of what's done is for PR reasons and for the public, for us to be reading it. And that's what we're seeing here. I mean, there's words here that I didn't even look up, you know, for 20 years. I didn't know. So it's another way basically to call someone childish. But, you know, these types of accusations, I mean, they're really meant to inflict pain and to embarrass your ex. That's what we're seeing here.
Yeah. So they're asking for Brad's business that owes Novell $350 million. So why would he have to pay that business since she already sold her part of this of Miraval?
So what we're seeing, obviously, Brad is trying to prevent the sale or unwind it, right? He wants the entire winery. So, you know, when you file a lawsuit like this, there's going to be a counterclaim when, you know, your ex is going to make her own claims. And here, Angelina's doing a couple things. She's saying, one, Brad, you can't get an accounting or you can't get compensated for the time you spent working at the winery, right? So if you have business partners and one's working and one's not, you know, the partner who's working may be entitled to some sort of compensation, right? So Angelina is saying, Brad, you didn't work there. You just showed up and watched other people work. Number one. Number two, not only did you not work for the entity that owns the chateau, you were actually taking money out of the company. So I'm entitled to reimbursement, or the company's entitled to reimbursement for the money that you took out. That's the looting allegations that are made.
So do you feel like she is grasping at straws, or is she making a good case?
Well, it's potentially grasping at straws. I think both sides really don't have the strongest arguments. I don't think that Brad is going to be able to ultimately prevent Angelina from selling her share. Usually there's a presumption that those types of interests are alienable, which means you could sell them or give them away. So Brad's trying to prevent that. Similarly, I don't necessarily think that either of them were spending a lot of time actually working at the winery, right? I mean, this is Brad Pitt and Angelina. I don't think they're getting their hands dirty like that.
Right.
But, you know, when you're dealing with lawsuits, people make all sorts of allegations. So we'll see. This might be that big case where a judge and really a jury are going to have to decide who's telling the truth here.
I feel like you're right. And, you know, I'm sure the people will already be writing their scripts once the strike is over.
No, yeah. I mean, really, I think the internet's going to explode if we have another trial like this.
Oh, 100%. Well, this is interesting. So Kanye West, we've talked about this in the past, but Kanye West is facing a new lawsuit regarding allegedly unsafe conditions at his Donda Academy, including claims that the school did not have glass in the window frames. So Isaiah Meadows, who was a former gym teacher at the private Christian school, he filed a lawsuit alleging wrongful termination, breach of contract, and violations of multiple education, health, safety, and labor codes. So according to the legal documents, which Neama, you are representing Isaiah, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can probably I'm just going to let you explain this.
So our firm, West Coast Trailers, we're representing Isaiah and some of the other folks who allegedly were wrongfully terminated by Kanye and Donda Academy. Actually, my partner, Ron, who's been on the show, he usually covers for me. He's the lead attorney on the case. So and you really can't make this stuff up in terms of the allegations, right? Kanye didn't like glass. There's no glass. There's no windows. I mean, the skylight is open. You know, the kids in the school, they're getting rained on. So I highly recommend everyone to, if you have any interest in reading legal documents, to read these, the allegations in the complaint, because it's one of the most bizarre cases I've seen in my 20 years of practice.
Really is. I mean, they said that like you said, water would soak the floor. There was a moldy smell. It was glass was intentionally left off because Kanye didn't like glass. There was exposed telephone and electrical wires near the student eating area, and it did not have working hot water to effectively wash kids' hands. The septic tank would overflow every other day. Like you said, these allegations are insane to me. So how is a school not shut down or not being investigated when there's such serious allegations, and also health issues as well too, and safety?
So when you're dealing with the employees and the health issue, that's where OSHA will have to come in and decide this is an unsafe working condition. Obviously, you know, our firm has filed a lawsuit making those allegations, but whenever you're dealing with, you know, an enforcement or government entity, that's really sort of OSHA or the state equivalence version of that's within their responsibility to shut an unsafe business down. Now, when you're talking about schools, there's really a big difference between public schools, which are really governed by the California Department of Education or the state's Department of Education, and private schools. Private schools have a lot less in terms of accountability. There's certain things they have to do with the file and register and so forth, but they're not subject to the same rules and restrictions and requirements that public schools are. There's actually very little oversight of private schools, and that's, I think, one of the big problems in this case.
Right. And, this is one of many lawsuits that have been filed against Kanye. So are we looking to pay damage? Are we looking for Kanye to pay damages, or, what are they kind of hoping to gain out of this?
Yeah, with respect to the employees, the proper remedy is really damages, right? They need to be paid for, the termination, emotional distress, any lost earnings, and all the other types of damages available under California law. But with respect to the school itself, it's really a question for the parents. I know obviously Kim didn't have her own kids attend Donda, right? So, parents have a lot of discretion into how to school their children. They can homeschool, they can private school, they can public school. So, maybe the parents might decide, hey, we want to pull our kids out, or we can choose to leave them there. And then with respect to the government agencies, like I said, it'll be OSHA, the Department of Education, to step in and say, hey, this is something that's unsafe, both for the employees and for the students, but it's not necessarily a decision for the former employees to make.
Is it surprising that parents haven't come forward? And I don't know if this is a stretch, but could Kim be subpoenaed at all to testify as maybe a potential witness, and she didn't want to send her own kids to the school?
Of course. I mean, parents, Kim, anyone that had knowledge of the facts and circumstances of the case, and really the condition that both the students and teachers and faculty and the staff at Donda were in, they're all potential witnesses in the case, and they're fair game. So obviously it's early in the litigation process, but Kanye's lawyers have denied that any of this happened. So that means that it's up to these independent witnesses to come and really testify. Is Kanye telling the truth, or all these multiple former employees telling the truth? Yeah. So we're going to go through that discovery process, and that's what depositions and subpoenas and document production, all that fun stuff is for.
Definitely. Well, good luck to you and to Ron. All right. Well, moving on to Logan Paul. So this energy drink that has earned viral popularity among children is now facing scrutiny from lawmakers and health experts over its potentially dangerous levels of caffeine. So Senator Charles Schumer called on the FDA to investigate Prime, which is the drink, saying buyer and parents beware because it's a serious health concern for kids. It fervishly targets because it's Logan and another YouTube star. Kids follow them on social media, want to do everything that they do. And supposedly it has 200 milligrams per 12 ounces of caffeine, which is equivalent to about half a dozen Coke cans or nearly 2 Red Bulls. So they're just concerned that young kids are consuming so much caffeine. So a company's representative said the energy drink, which comes with a warning label, is not recommended for children under 18. So this is an interesting case. We haven't really talked about something like this, but what would happen? Can the FDA pull this from shelves? Would Logan have to pay damages or anything like that? It doesn't seem like anybody's been harmed by this drink yet, but it potentially could happen.
Potentially. I mean, this is bad news for Logan Paul and Prime. And this is something I'm very familiar with because I have an 11 and 12-year-old, and they watch these YouTubers and they're obsessed with Prime. And when you have the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, on you and asking the FDA to investigate, it's a problem. Now, this is my understanding, though. And again, this is not someone that drinks Prime, but based on what my kids tell me, there's 2 types of Prime. There's the one that's marketed to kids, right? I forgot what it's called. It's like Prime Hydration that has little to no caffeine. And there's another type of Prime that's marketed to adults that does have the caffeine and has significant amounts of caffeine. Now, with respect to damages, again, I don't know if it's true or not, but some parents are reporting issues with their kids drinking the other type of Prime that has caffeine. So if so, there's no question that this is something that the FDA and other regulators can get involved with. We've seen it with vapes, for instance. You can't market to kids something that's unhealthy. So kids have a lot more protections in terms of, the marketplace than adults do. Adults can make decisions that are bad for them, but kids can't. So if there's damages, then I could see the lawsuits start flowing. And even if there aren't damages, every state has consumer protection laws that protects adults and kids from false advertising. So if they're marketing the drink as something healthy or something that doesn't have caffeine and it actually does, really regardless of the actual bodily injury, there is a fraud and consumers being misled. And that's where you see those types of class action lawsuits.
Interesting. So this could potentially be pulled from shelves completely, or maybe they would have to totally rework this drink, or is this kind of the end for Prime?
It could be. So, to get pulled from the shelves, it'd be something that the government has to do. It'd be a regulation, right? Similar to like Donda in the school. We can't shut it down, but the government can. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Prime. The government can say, hey, you got to pull it off the shelves. This is unsafe. What the consumers can do is file that lawsuit for money damages, right? To say, listen, we've been misled, we've been hurt, you have to pay us. But the consumers won't necessarily be able to force them off the shelf.
Interesting. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Well, Neama, thank you so much. I'm glad we are back in the swing of things and lots of interesting topics this week.
So glad to be back, Christina. Can't wait to see you next week.
Everybody keep commenting, keep subscribing. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.